So as a bit of an epilogue to the last video, of course I took these logs over to the mill. Now it's important to know, as you sort of watch me crawl away here, it's important to point out that this technically is not a road legal trailer. Anderson Equipment does sell a version of this trailer that is road legal with tires and spindles for the higher speed, as well as a full lighting package. But I didn't bother going with that, opting for the more rugged forestry type tires instead. And you know, I was thinking I wouldn't be taking this on the road very often, but here I go taking it on the road. Fortunately, the Sawyer that I am using is very close by, and I can just pedal along really slowly on small, quiet back roads without upsetting anyone too much. I think what I might do in the future is get myself some of those magnetic lights that you can attach on the back, and that'll help things out a little bit. So of course I warmed up the trailer, warmed up the hydraulics, and while I was doing that I marked on the ends of all the logs just to help the Sawyer out a little bit. And what I do normally is I'll give him a piece of paper with a number, all the numbers for the logs on it, and so he knows exactly what I want from each log. Now he's got a couple of different piles, so I'll put the small ones, the shorter ones, in one pile, and the bigger ones in a number. I really don't like to pinch the log with the grapple. I like to grab a whole mitt full of it like that instead. So you saw me put it down and re-grab it there. Now the whole time I was doing this, I was thinking about one little thing I didn't get time to do the previous day when I pulled out these logs. There are a number of blowdowns from multiple years ago, as well as a hung up tree from this latest windstorm that I really wanted to clean up. They just didn't look very nice, and I thought maybe with the winch I would pull them down. So I just finished unloading these logs, and then since the weather was still pretty decent, I decided to head home and finish the job. So of course I had to file a saw. Now there are a lot of chainsaw filing videos out there. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that, but I've always done it freehand in a vise, and I've never really had a problem with it. But if you have an aggressive file, I do recommend that you use eye protection, because sometimes the file will throw up little tiny bits of steel, and well, they can certainly find their way into your eyeball. Using a vise really helps you keep your body position exactly the same, and of course that helps you keep the same file angle on every tooth, which helps the chain cut better throughout its life. So off I go, and I hook up again and take off to the site. The really nice thing is in this particular site I was able to stay right on the road, which just made a few logistics easier and gave me a nice stable platform to work from. So this is where the tractor was parked in the last video. If you see in the background there, you see a couple of trees. Those are trees that fell down in windstorms a number of years ago, and they actually had their tops fall across the driveway. And the tops were cut off so that you could get by with a car, but they're still a little bit unsightly. So if I go down a little bit further, now we're getting on the left is where the tree was that I hauled out the other day, but right in the center you see what looks like a leaner. It's actually a broken off tree. It broke off about 20 feet in the air, and the wind blew it sideways and it landed, and now it's leaning up against another tree, and you can see that from the driveway as well, and it kind of looks a little unsightly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the winch to pull these down backwards using a pulley. Now I've done that before in the past, but never with this machine and never with the pulley setups I have now, so I thought I would take you along for the ride. So we have a decent anchor tree here. I'm going to try this one. Looks to be in a good alignment with what we're trying to do here. Now, these are called tree saver straps. And they're designed to protect the tree from, too much damage from the extraction process. This is one I'm going to anchor my pulley to. And the primary objective really for this job is just to make sure some of these logs don't go to waste, but also look after some of the aesthetics. So we want to make sure we don't, scuff these trees up too much. So I haven't done this with this particular setup anyway very often, so bear with me. Now these pulleys are great because they are open-sided, which is really handy for getting the cable in there. There. That seemed to work fine. So we'll go hook up the tree and see how it works. So little projects like this are just a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about how the machine works. You notice I lifted up the boom arm there and put it into a better position. Really, you see the trailer shoving sideways there a little bit. There are no logs on the trailer. Really, the best approach is to make sure you have a bit of weight on the trailer before you start winching anything heavy. So that's really just comes down to sort of planning your day well, so that you at least can easily get out a few logs, put them on the trailer to give yourself a little extra weight. But in this situation, I managed to make it work. So down went the log, no problem. Now I started to run out of cable, started almost run into the pulley system down there, but it was really out of the way anyway, and not terribly visible anymore. But I decided just to run down there, lop the top off, and throw it out of the way. So there it is. Not much left to do except for go unhook the tree and move the pulley and pulley end line over to the next tree. Now, instead of getting too elaborate with additional pulleys and that sort of stuff, it really was easiest just to pick up and move the trailer down the road a little bit to another good line of sight. So this, of course, is the broken off one that looks like a leaner. Everybody knows that dealing with this sort of stuff is dangerous, and I tell you, it's really, really nice to be able to deal with something like this from 100 plus feet away. After taking up a bit of the slack in the line, gave it a pull, and down it came, no problem at all. Now, there was a lot of woodpecker damage on this log, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't terribly optimistic, but I wasn't sure if there was anything of value in there. So I cut it up a little bit just to take a look at it, and in fact, no, it really is too far gone. Unfortunately, that's probably why it broke off in the first place. But I do know a number of people who will burn softwood for campfires and that sort of stuff. In this part of Ontario, there really is a lot of hardwood, so nobody in their right mind burns softwood for heat. But there are a number of people that do enjoy having some softwood around for campfires. So out it came. So after this was hauled out, there really wasn't that much left to do other than just load it up and take it out. After I get this first little log on, I tried a technique I came up with just to make things a little bit easier with this next log, which is relatively full length. That is, I lifted it up and I pulled it towards me and just left it up in the air a little bit. This makes it a lot easier to cut underneath without cut all the way through without getting your chain in the dirt. So I loaded up this one Now I made sure to pull it towards me far enough such that after I took that first log off, and I could still reach with the boom the second log. That meant I didn't have to hook the winch back up to pull it into range. So I'll have to try and remember that for future projects. Just makes it a lot easier and a lot more efficient. So then I picked up the stabilizer arms and rolled back off to where I keep my waste wood slash firewood pile. So this little windstorm cleanup project has been only marginally lucrative, but really the value has been the opportunity to do something a little bit productive, but also practice and get used to the machine. It's done everything that I wanted, and it's really everything I expected it to be, so that's great. I'm still learning some techniques. I'm still learning some approaches to being a little bit smoother with the machine. And all of that's just going to make the whole process a lot more enjoyable. So this concludes that little windstorm cleanup project. Thanks for coming along.